You know, when I go to the mall and I go to the Dior store and I want something, I get it. I ask how much it costs and I buy it. So if you really want something, just go get it. So, um, yeah, I mean I'm the product here, and if they want my product, they just gotta come get it.
You cannot make it up. You just simply cannot make any of this up. Like, if Hollywood told you to write a crazy baseball story and you wrote this, they'd rip up the script, throw it right back at you, tell you it's too unrealistic and that it's never going to work. Well, it happened. It really happened. Back about a month ago, Carlos Correa signed a deal with the San Francisco Giants for 13 years and $350 million. There's been conflicting reports on whether Correa was actually all dressed up and ready with his family for the introductory press conference, but what we do know is that the Giants' press conference to introduce Correa to their franchise was called off. The rest of the day left us all wondering what the hell was going on and why exactly it was called off. We'd find out that it ended up being the physical which halted things, and just hours later in the middle of the night, a bomb was dropped that the Mets now had an agreement with Carlos Correa on a 12-year contract worth $315 million. He did it. That son of a gun did it. Steve Cohen really said, okay, I'll take Correa, swooped in and signed him to be their third baseman next to Francisco Lindor at shortstop. Things were looking great for the Mets. A few days went by, Correa took his physical, another day went by, and on Christmas Eve, it was reported that the Mets now had a concern with Correa's physical. So the Giants, a team that was scolded and made fun of for botching the Correa deal, looked a whole lot better now that they weren't the only team concerned with Correa's long-term health. Days went by, weeks went by, and at this point, nobody knew what was going on. There were so many different reports about what was happening behind the scenes, but in reality, nobody really knew what was or is going to happen. There were recent reports that Correa and his side of things were not interested in restructuring the Mets contract, something that Cohen and the Mets of course wanted to do. There were then more reports that the Mets were growing frustrated with Correa and considering walking away from the deal altogether. But the overall general consensus seemed to be that the Mets deal was going to work out. Reporter Carlos Baerga then reported not once but 2 times yesterday on his Instagram page that the Mets were going to announce the deal today. Until they didn't, because it never happened. Correa did officially sign somewhere, it just wasn't with the Mets. Before I get any further, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Over 70% of my watch time has been from people who aren't subscribed, so hit that button along with the bell for post notifications. Okay, back to the video. Correa is headed back to the Minnesota Twins. The contract is for $200 million over 6 years with a vesting option that can max the deal out to $270 million. Correa lost out on millions of dollars because of his ankle injury, one that he suffered all the way back in 2014 when he was a teenager in the Astros minor league system. It hasn't caused any injuries during his major league career up until this point, as he's been pretty injury prone throughout his career, but the problems have been with his back, ribs, stuff like that rather than his right ankle. He still ended up getting a nice fat contract, just not necessarily quite as long as he originally was going to get with the Giants or with the Mets. And before you ask, this deal is very likely to go through. According to sources, the major part of Correa's physical is done with, including the ankle, which was the biggest issue, so there shouldn't be anything stopping Correa's return to Minnesota. As for the Twins, this is of course huge. It was a big deal when the Twins signed him for the first time, as they're an organization not necessarily known for going out and getting big names, but this time was even bigger of a deal. Correa is coming off of a really good first year in Minnesota, putting up really good numbers offensively, while also being the reliable glove and arm he offers defensively. Signing with the Twins over the Mets will now of course keep him at shortstop, and hopefully for the Twins, this will help them be competitive for years to come. As for the Mets, not great. Now obviously, this isn't the worst thing in the world, they still have a great team and maybe we'll eventually find out that it was best to not take a chance on Correa staying healthy. Maybe Correa will eventually break down and not be able to produce with the Twins, and it will make both the Mets and Giants look great. But for the time being, the Mets, and Steve Cohen especially, does not look great. Right after the signing happened, Cohen even commented on it. Commenting on a signing before it passes through the physical and is official isn't something you're really supposed to do. When Cohen told the New York Post that the Correa signing will put them over the top, he clearly didn't foresee all the drama that was ahead. And he most certainly did not foresee Correa going back to the Twins. I'm gonna be honest, I kinda wanna be Carlos Correa when I grow up. Correa is the first person and player, as far as I know, to ever sign with 3 teams in one offseason, all for over $200 million. Pretty inspiring stuff. So the Carlos Correa drama is over. Well, at least we think. The Carlos Correa drama is likely over now, and he will be back playing where?
Minnesota!